The only bad thing about video games is that they cost money. And I don't know about you, but I don't like spending money on video games. I don't like spending money in general. So I've seen some conversation going around asking, are 2D games worth $60? There's been a few recent titles that have brought this question up. It kind of all started with Metroid Dread a couple years ago. People asking, this is a 2D Metroid game, is this worth $60? And we're seeing the same thing now with games like Sonic Superstars and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. People are saying, I can't move in 3 dimensions, this can't be $60. There's also the recently announced 2D Prince of Persia game, which is not $60, it's $50, but it is generating a lot of the same kind of conversation. The whole argument that a 2D game should be priced lower than a 3D game just has never really made sense to me. In no other media does the genre of something determine what price it is. You don't go to a movie theater and they say, all right, well, it's $10 for this horror movie, but it's $15 for this action movie. No, they're all just movies. They're all just the same. And whether you want to pay money or not for one of them is depending on if you'll want to see it or not. I see assumptions that 2D games are just inherently lesser than 3D ones, and that is just so untrue. 3D games usually are longer than 2D games, but they also have a lot more filler. The classic walk and talk with a character, tons of cutscenes, moving around to get to your objective without really doing anything in the meantime. And a lot of repetitive tasks like clearing enemy encampments or something. So even though a lot of 2D games might be shorter than 3D ones, in terms of the pricing, I don't really see why that should matter. And games are the only medium where length is a determining factor for people, which is kind of strange. You don't judge a movie for being too short or a book for being too short. And shouldn't something leave you wanting more instead of just dragging on and on? I see a lot of people put up a dollar per hour metric of what games they want to buy based on how many hours they'll get out of them, which I really don't get. Like, are you just trying to fill up time in your life until you die? Shouldn't your enjoyment be the bigger factor than how much time it'll take up? So yeah, I could buy a super long game for probably pretty cheap and it would last me forever, but I wouldn't be enjoying it. And if you are really just trying to fill up time and trying to do it in the most cost-efficient way as possible, go get a library card. A place where they've got free media, tons of books, and guess what? A lot of them have video games too. And so if that's your concern, go do that. Don't be spending any money on video games because you're not getting a good value compared to the library. I speak for every type of game, 2D, 3D, isometric, whatever, when I say I want them to be all killer, no filler. And a lot of 3D games just have pointless stuff shoved into them in order to justify their length and to justify their price. But I'd much rather have an amazing 5-hour experience with a game than a pretty good 20-hour experience. Because come on, life is short. We're already technically wasting time by playing video games anyway. Why would I want to waste it even more on something that's not that enjoyable? I see the same thing when a lot of remasters or remakes come out of an older game. People say, oh, why should this be full price? It's not a new game. But first, to a lot of people, it is a new game. They might not have played the original. And also, why would the fact that it's a remaster determine the price? If it's not worth it to you, then fine, you don't have to buy it. But if the quality is there and it's going to be as enjoyable to people as a new game, then why should it be a problem if it's full price? I see a lot of people saying things like, oh, how can they be charging this much for this game? Whether it's 2D or whether it has pixel art or is turn-based or doesn't have voice acting. These are all things that come up when people talk about what price a video game should be. But the thing that determines the price a video game is not its length, its budget, the art style, whether it has any famous actors or not. It's none of that. It's actually nothing to do with the content of the game itself. It's one thing that's very simple. It's how much the publisher thinks they can get away with charging to sell to as many people as possible. The reason that Tears of the Kingdom is a $70 game instead of a $60 game when it has a lot of content, yeah, that's true, But the content is not why that's $70. $70 because Nintendo knows that they can get a lot of people to pay that extra $10 for it. And if a game at a certain price isn't worth it to you, you don't have to buy it. It's very easy to just wait for a sale also. There's almost no reason to buy a game day one. You can often get it a few months down the line with some patches, with some updates. You'll get it at a better price and you'll get a better experience. You don't need to pay more to have a worse experience. And it's true that a lot of Nintendo games don't really go on sale, which is unfortunate, but that's because they don't need them to. Nintendo can get away with hardly ever discounting their games because they know that people are going to be buying them no matter what. Because let me tell you, I remember back in the Wii U days, the dark days of the Wii U, and Nintendo games went on sale all the time. I remember specifically there was some deal where if you bought Mario Kart 8, you would get a digital copy of another first-party Wii U game. There was a few you could choose from. I picked Wind Waker HD. Imagine a deal like that. Basically 2 first-party games for the price of 1. Essentially 1 for free. Nintendo would never dream of doing that in a million years now. Like, could you imagine you buy Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and you get a free copy of Breath of the Wild or of Tears of the Kingdom? Like, no, that would never happen now because those games are selling. On the Wii U, they weren't selling. And answering the question of whether a game is worth $60, whether it's 2D or not, it's kind of an impossible question to answer because everyone's personal financial situation is different. You might be a billionaire, in which case any game at $60 or $70 or $80 is basically nothing to you, so yeah, totally worth it. But at the same time, if you're someone who's struggling on paying rent or paying for food, no game at $60 should probably be worth it. Even games at $30 or $40 are probably too much to ask. And so to put over a blanket statement of, oh, 2D games shouldn't be $60, that really just takes so many factors out of the equation that should be in there. So the only person who can really answer a question of whether a 2D game is worth $60 to you is you. And thankfully right now we live in a time where it's so easy to just get a good idea of whether or not you'll like a game. Basically the second a game comes out, you can watch a full playthrough of it on YouTube, you can read reviews, you can see what different creators or different people online are saying about it, you can look up all the technical details, frame rate, resolution, anything. You'll basically have it day one, so there's no reason to pre-order a full-priced game for that. And then it's up to you to look at the game and just determine, hey, will I enjoy playing this? Will I feel that my enjoyment is worth a $60 purchase? Because believe me, you don't want to just play super long games that are not enjoyable to you, because if you are, what's even the point? So will Super Mario Bros. Wonder be worth $60? It's hard to say right now because we've only had one trailer, but based on Nintendo's track record, I would lean towards yes. Is Sonic Superstars going to be worth $60? That's a little bit harder to say, given that the last game the studio worked on was Balan Wonderworld. So we might want to wait for some reviews, wait for some gameplay impressions, wait for maybe the game to come out and see how it is first. But just the nature of it being 2D does not make it any lesser, or does not make it worth any less money inherently. Because believe me, there's a lot of crappy 3D games out there, a lot of crappy 3D Sonic games that are not worth $60. Even though they're 3D, that doesn't make them worth more money just because of that. So yeah, only you have the power to decide, and I trust you to use that power honestly and graciously. Alright, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching.